こんにちは、香川博です。本を書いたりするときはね、山楠洋二という名前を使ってます。よろしくお願いします。さてね、今日はね、実は、アメリカって、ボランティアの世界なんですよね。多くの人がボランティアで活動している。特に政治的なキャンペーンなんかもそうなんですけどね、長年にわたって民主党側で、ずっとボランティア活動をしてて、今回の大統領候補のね、バイデンさんに非常に近い、ところで活躍していらっしゃる、キャス・ダランシーさん、ダランシーさんという方にインタビューしました。でね、これは非常にね、大切なインタビューだと思うんです。というのはなぜかと言いますとね、日本の方々ね、今回の大統領選挙ってほら、コロナのことで、大暴れしてる大統領とね、じゃあ民主党の人ってどういうふうに戦うんだろうというような気持ちがあると思うんですよ。で、いろいろとその点を聞いてみましたけどね、非常に興味深かったのはね、やはりね、普通は大統領の候補とか大統領の大きな声でわーっと話をして、そして、ある意味でポピュリズムを含めてね、ガンと人をね、心をつかむ、そういう手法を取るんですけどね、バイデンさんはね、長年にわたって、もうオバマさんと一緒に仕事をしてた時も含めて、彼は前のね、副大統領ですからね、非常にね、静かに、しかも知的に、そして淡々とね、今のアメリカの状況を訴えていると。その姿勢が逆に、今のアメリカの本当に何とかしないといけないという心に今響いていると。これが、例えば、中国の問題なんかを見ますとね、中国って香港の問題もあれば、経済の問題もある。そして中国を批判しないと悪いところもあれば、なんとか一緒にやっていかないと悪い。そういういろんな矛盾をね、単なる自分のベネフィットだけではなくてね、ちょっと客観的にアメリカとか世界のために立ってね、どうやってお互いにwork together、中国と一緒にwork togetherしていくか、というようなことをね、バイデンさんが考えていると。非常に難しい課題ですよね。ただ、今分断されている世の中の中でね、彼のスタンスが非常にはっきりと見えてきた、インタビューだったと思います。実は、バイデンさんのキャンペーンについてはね、さらにね、追っかけてみたいなと思ってますのでね、ぜひ期待してください。難しい話題ですけれどもね、海外の人と話をするときに、こういう話題を頭の中に入れて話すということはね、すごく大切なことなんですね。ですから、ぜひ参考にしてみてください。サブタイトルもついてますからね、英語の勉強にもなります。Hi, Kath.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, well, me too, me too. Where are you living right now?
I live in California, actually very close to the University of Berkeley in
Wow.
California in the San Francisco Bay Area.
There are two hotspots, which is one, unfortunately, this is coronavirus, but
Yeah.
also a hotspot of the liberal people.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I do
Yeah.
live in the hot spot of the liberal people, and
Mm,
every day I am very grateful.
that's good. That's good. Well, but this corona pandemic, of course, it cannot be the political issue. However, people make it a political issue. For example, wearing the mask or not wearing the mask, or like even it is related with some kind of how to behave in the public, and also how to protect the United States. So, from your point of view, if you have any idea Mr. Biden's and kind of a policy about how to deal with the corona pandemic and creating a future.
Hmm. Well, first of all, I've
Mm.
been fortunate to know Vice President Biden and to work with him in the campaign when he was the vice president to Barack Obama.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very involved in that campaign in 2008.
Yes.
I also was familiar with his long record in the Senate.
Mm.
I worked for the late Alan Cranston, a senator from California, and Senator Biden and Senator Cranston worked very closely together and co-authored a lot of Democratic progressive legislation. So I would say that Vice President Biden brings decades of experience,
Mm-hmm.
a calm and steady leadership
Mm.
to the coronavirus.
I see.
He is taking it very seriously from day one. He has a plan. He actually had a very significant speech that he gave earlier today on the difference of how he would lead this country through this pandemic, as well as this unbelievable economic crisis that we're in.
Mm.
And all of all of our countries. I know Japan is also,
Exactly.
I'm so sorry to hear as well, been
Sure.
affected by Corona and also the economy.
Mhm.
So I think he will lead on day one as president of the next president of the United States as a steady and calm leader. He said today that he would appoint Dr. Anthony Fauci, who is a leading global expert on viruses and the coronavirus, and he would not censor Dr. Fauci. Now,
Dr. Trump is suffering from the kind of a reaction from the current president because he does not listen to so much.
That's correct. President Trump really likes to control the message. And he likes to control the people who speak around him. And so if you have a different point of view than President Trump, we will see around the world on Twitter and in the newspapers and on televisions and in public, he will really bully and denounce if someone has a different point of view.
I have a so-called question, which is because Donald Trump is so talkative and a big voice, stimulate populism. And unfortunately, that impact is so huge to the people who does not know the fact.
Yes.
Then Mr. Biden is quite intelligent and calm. And this gap may cause some kind of differences or difficulties even because we have 4 months still. So do you have any idea like how to promote Mr. Biden for this gap? Of course, now he's reading, but.
Yes. Well, I think that I can just speak for myself. And I can say, I am a volunteer for the Biden campaign.
Yes.
And I am volunteering my time like thousands and thousands of Americans across this country to support Vice President Biden and Dr. Jill Biden, his wife, who's actually an educator. And they have a very different style that is actually, I believe, more American. It is a democratic voice. It's a more civil voice. It's a voice of inclusion. I think more and more Americans are seeing that President Trump is full of hot air, full of theatrics, full of lies. And I think Americans, because there's been so much loss of death in America from the disease, so much economic hardship, so much racism, blatant racism, that President Trump is stoking the fears and bringing out elements of our culture that have always been there, but he has given them a voice. And this is un-American. And as the Japanese would know as well from your own history, it's inhumane.
I see. So that case, of course, this is a kind of a real argument and fighting point. And particularly like this gap, not only because of corona pandemic or Mr. Floyd case and everything, creating a big gap between races and also poor and rich and educated also. So this is a huge, tremendous task for the new president to fill that pitfalls. And do you have any strategy in your mind with Biden?
Well, again, I cannot speak officially for the campaign because I am a volunteer, but I do know that Vice President Biden adheres to the rule of law. This is a fundamental difference between Vice President Biden and his administration that he will bring into power in the current administration. As you can see from the closest men around President Trump have been imprisoned or are being charged with crimes. So this is number one. Our president, our president that we would like, Joe Biden, believes in the rule of law. He will appoint a very inclusive cabinet that will be reflective of the American people.
I see.
Yes. He will not surround himself, and I say this with all due respect, with people that look like him.
I see. That's
Yes.
good idea. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And particularly like right now, because of corona pandemics, let's go back about the economy, because economically, America is suffering, Japan is suffering, everywhere is suffering. And now still current president is talking America first. Of course, for Americans, American economy is really important, but bilateral or internationally, interculturally, everything is connected. So this is
Indefinitely.
a contradiction. So how, maybe Mr. Biden may cure this so-called American first, so-called selfishness, so-called.
Yes.
However, contradiction is, on the other hand, American economy must be re-established again, rebuilt again. So this is a kind of another dilemma. So of course, even if that's happened because of current presidency, but of course, that debt must be succeeded to the new presidency. So yes, do you have any kind of expectations what Mr. Biden will do that?
Well, I think it's unfortunately a very complex storm that we're in right now. Yes, it's unprecedented because you have the confluence between a global pandemic, a global economic downturn, and climate change.
Yes.
And I would say a fourth, civil society's uncertainty that they and their children's rights will be protected.
Mm-hmm.
So he's coming in and will come in with a very strong cabinet of leaders who will understand that we cannot go back. We have to go forward with new philosophies and new ideas and structural changes that will really understand, as you said, we all are all interconnected. The planet only has a limited amount of resources.
Sure.
We have a limited amount of jobs. So we have to make sure that this new economy will also bring up those who have lost jobs, those who have been forced out of the market because of the advances, good and also challenging, of technology. So the good thing is, in working closely with the campaign, everyone has been so kind and intelligent and working together. This is my 9th presidential campaign as a volunteer or as a staff person. And I would have to say there is a great feeling of unity and a great positivity because we know that our lives are at stake in a way that they never have been before.
Okay, let's bring the particular example, like China, of course, now current president bashing China and creating economic crisis. And of course, it must be cured. But on the other hand, Hong Kong issue is another issue, which contradict each other because Hong Kong people are suffering against kind of a Chinese oppressions. So this is a real contradiction in the world and the difficulty and the complexity. Sometimes current president simplify it. And so by facing such kind of reality, for example, like China, of course, difficult question, I know, but how Mr. Biden will deal with that?
Well, I think, again, coming back to the fundamental differences is that, Mr. Trump sees his relationship in China as how it would personally affect him and his own family's business. This is very different than Vice President Biden. First and foremost, is a diplomat and is a friend to the world and to the friend of the people of the world. Yes, China has human rights abuses. Yes, China is one of the largest emitters to carbon, emissions. These are very difficult challenges. So we have to work with China so that they can have a country that is safe and not toxic and healthy air for their people to breathe, just like we do. So I am not a China expert, but I do know that he has, a whole row, a bench, I guess, as you would say, a bench of experts on China that are briefing Vice President Biden. And as the vice president, he was the vice president under President Obama. And if you look at Vice President Biden and President Obama's record over their 8 years, the relationships with China look much different now than they did then. So Vice President Biden is coming with a lot of history in foreign relations and negotiations and diplomacy.
So that means like he's calm and intelligent character must work. Even if, you know, I mean, how can I say, shouting by big voice against China.
Yes. It is so unfortunate. You know, one thing also, the difference between Mr. Trump and Vice President Biden is Vice President Biden has an enormous emotional intelligence and empathy. And I'm sorry, my dogs are going to.
Fine. This is not really working. I totally agree. I'm an animal lover. Don't worry.
I think I held her off. Okay, so I think that, tell me what I was saying. I lost my train of thought.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I forgot where we were.
Oh, well, you know, just I'm saying like his character, you know.
Oh, yes, his character. So yes, Vice President Biden, which is the fundamental reason I am passionate about him and Dr. Jill Biden and his family is because they are good, decent Americans. They have a lot of empathy. Dr. Biden and Vice President Biden have personally suffered a lot of loss. I'm not sure if the Japanese people are familiar, but unfortunately his wife and his young child were killed in a car accident when Vice President Biden was a very young senator. He raised his boys on his own, was happy, you know, was fortunate many years later to meet Jill Biden, who's an educator and works at a community college her whole career, teaching American to many international students and immigrants that come to this country. And then most recently, they lost their older son to cancer. So they are speaking to Americans every day who are losing family members to COVID. And they are the type of neighbor, the type of family member, the type of leader that you would want to surround yourself with. Because you know what to expect.
I see. Okay, last question. Or last comment I want, which is like, do you have any message to Japanese or in the world, you know, from a point of view for the new presidency under this current crisis, if you have?
Well, I would encourage all of our Japanese friends to learn more about our campaign. And you can just go to our website, joebiden.com, and you can learn about all of our policies. The second thing I would say is for all of our American friends that are living in Japan to make sure that you're voting. It is going to be incredibly important that everyone turns out to vote. And lastly, I would say it's very important that for the world and for the future of humanity, that Vice President Biden wins this presidential campaign, because America really is a good friend to the world, and we want to reestablish how we can be a good neighbor again to our friends around the world.
Wow.
So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Stay healthy, please.
Thank you, and you as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Goodbye.
To your family. Thank you.